All right, now here's a question I want to ask you. The question is this. If you have a house under contract and you're trying to find a cash buyer in your market to sell that house to, try to wholesale that house. Since you can only wholesale property one time, make money on it once, one transaction, one deal, one check, that deal's gone forever. Wouldn't it make sense to take a little bit more time and a little bit more effort to find the best buyer in your marketplace, that specific type of cash buyer that's gonna pay you more for that property than all of those other cash buyers are gonna pay you? Wouldn't it make sense to do so? Because let's put it like this. Let's say you have a deal flow cap. Let's say no matter what you do and what you try, you can't do more than 25 deals. Now traditionally, we make more money by doing more deals. But since you can't do more than 25 deals, how else can you increase your income? Well, you could have spent less money to get those same 25 deals. For example, instead of spending $4,000 a deal, you could have spent $2,000 a deal and been better at your marketing. But what if you can't do either of those options, right? How else can you increase your income? You can increase your income by maximizing on the profit that you make on each deal by finding cash buyers who will pay you more for that deal. For example, if you're selling 25 houses at $8,000 a piece, if you increase your sales price to $10,000 profit, you just made $2,000 more per deal, $50,000 more on the same deals that you had. So maximization of profits on each deal is very, very important. Now, if you don't have a buyer's list, you don't have a business, especially if you're a wholesaler. But if you're a landlord, a rehabber, or an owner finance investor, ask yourself right now, do I still need a buyer's list? Do I need a buyer's list? And if you don't have a buyer's list, you're throwing money down the drain. You have to have a buyer's list because it's gonna cost you money every year. And let me explain, because I know a lot of you are like, man, Connor, I don't need a buyer's list. I'm a rehabber or I'm a landlord. Why do I need a buyer's list? Well, let's look at a few scenarios. Say you're a rehabber and you're doing a lot of rehabs. What normally happens? You run out of money. A lot of you are gonna run out of money. So what are you gonna do? You either have to wholesale the house or pass up on the deal. But if you try to wholesale the house and you don't have a buyer's list, how are you gonna wholesale it? You're gonna have to find someone in your market that has a big buyer's list that will sell that deal for you and do a joint venture wholesale deal. But why give up half a deal? Why not just build your own buyer's list? Now, what if you're a landlord and you're marketing for deals and let's say you come across a $500,000 house that no matter how you finance it, no matter how many times you try to do it, you can't figure out how to finance it in a way that it cash flows. So what do you traditionally do? You refer that deal to one of your real estate agent friends for $50, right? Only $50. We're not talking about what comes under the counter. We do things right here, right? So that's traditionally what you do. But if you have a buyer's list, you could wholesale that deal for a big profit. If you don't have a buyer's list, you can still wholesale it, but you have to split it with another wholesaler. Now, what about if you have plenty of money and you're a rehabber, but you come across a deal that's an hour and a half from you and it's a smoking hot deal, but you don't have the crews, you don't have the rehabbing team that will go out there to do it. It's logistically not feasible for you to go do that project. Are you just gonna let it go? Or are you gonna try to wholesale it? But if you try to wholesale it and you don't have a buyer's list, what are you gonna do, right? So there's a number of reasons why you need to build a buyer's list even if you're not a wholesaler. So let's go through and look at the buyers on the board behind me and talk about which ones are gonna pay you the most so you know how to make more money as your wholesaling business grows. Because if you only have so much time in a day to build your buyer's list, why not go after the good buyers, right? So number one, guys, rehabbers on the list. So as we go down this list right here, as you go down, they're gonna pay you more for the property. So the first one is the rehabber. The rehabber is gonna be the one that pushes back on your price the most. They're gonna try to get the lowest price. And they're gonna give you the most headache as a wholesaler because they need to buy the house at a good price, right? Because they're taking the most risk. Why is it the riskiest for a rehabber to buy a property? Because if they buy the property from you on a high interest short-term loan, like a hard money loan or a private money loan, if the deal doesn't go right and they have to sell the property and fire sale it and they take a loss at the present moment. They actually have skin in the game. The ticking time bomb is going once they buy the property, carrying costs are kicking in, and it's a race to sell that house. If they don't sell it quickly or for what they think, they can actually take a loss in the present moment. Now, how does this compare to the next buyer who can pay you a little bit more? A landlord, someone who rents out their properties for passive income. Now, if a landlord buys a property and makes a mistake, they can carry that property and get out of it over the years, right? They ride it out. They buy it, finance it, leave a little bit more money in, wait till it appreciates. There's a lot of different ways that they can ride out the storm. As compared to the rehabber, if they make a bad buy, they lose today and they have to sell the property for a loss. Otherwise, the loss just keeps getting bigger and they can't ride out the storm, if that makes sense. Now, owner finance investors are gonna pay you just as much as a landlord will, and sometimes even more, because they may not be doing the same type of repair work to the property. Plus, they can manipulate the financing and play the banking game and tweak the numbers a little bit so they can actually pay you more in certain situations than these other two types of investors. Now, the creme de la creme, as you would say, would be the retail buyer. So you can wholesale a house to a retail buyer. Some people call this wholesaling, right? So what's the best way to do this? The way we do it in our market is we actually have the money to close on these properties. Now you can do this without doing that, but you're gonna need a real long option, and that can be difficult. But if you have the money to close on a property, you can close on the property and wholesale it to a retail buyer through the MLS. Now the MLS is the multiple listing service. This is where all the properties listed by real estate agents go, and this is the world's biggest buyers list. So traditionally we're doing this with low price point properties, say $50,000 and under. Why? Because even after we close on the property on the front end, and even after we sell the property and close it on the back end and have 3% realtor fees because we're flat listing them on the front end, even after those costs come in, because how much does it really cost 3% on a $50,000 house? It's not that much. But when you put it on the MLS, you get it in front of all those retail buyers, individuals who are going to pay the premium price for the property because they're going to live in it, they're going to be an owner-occupant buyer, and they're not looking at labor costs. So when we rehab a house, labor costs are going to be the most expensive part of the project. So let's say you wholesale the house to someone who's going to live in the house and fix it up over time. If for you as an investor, it's going to cost 20 grand to fix up that house, right? 20 grand out of pocket labor costs. They're not looking at that 20 grand because they're going to see it, basically they're not going to see it that way because they're going to do the project on their own, so they're not calculating that into their purchase price. So they're going to pay you the most per property. So that's how it breaks down, guys. So it's hard to find retail buyers. You can find them on the MLS the easiest, but other than that, you should be spending all your time looking for owner finance buyers, especially owner finance buyers, then landlord buyers, then rehabbers. Now, is there a specific type of buyer in your market who's going to buy and pay you the most per property that you want to look for or try to get? Yes, there is. That is this person right here. So first off, as a wholesaler, you need to understand there's cash buyers that will not buy from you. They're not even going to buy from you, but there's plenty of cash buyers that will. So which type of cash buyer are you looking for? You're looking for that inexperienced cash buyer who's going to fund the deal with all their own money. Say they've been successful in business outside of real estate. Say they run a bunch of laundromats or whatever they do to make their money. They made a bunch of money. They're now getting in the business. Their education level is low. They're not using any debt service or debt leverage, meaning they're not using a hard money lender, a bank, or a private money lender to fund the deal. So they don't have all those expensive costs. They don't have any points into the deal. So for example, if a hard money lender was to loan on for the investor that bought the property from you, they may put in $10,000 of loan costs to do that project, right? But if they're not having those loan costs in, that's an extra $10,000 in their pocket, right? So now we'll take another level further. What if they have good workers? What if they have individuals who will do the work cheaply, or they have good connections with a foundation company, or for whatever reason they can do the work much cheaper than the average market investor will do it for, right? So say they can do a $30,000 rehab that takes most people $30,000 to do, they can do it for 20. Now they save $10,000 there, $10,000 because of the financing. They can literally offer you $20,000 more for that property than everybody else can. That's how you see right now in Dallas-Fort Worth, people are like, why are people paying 85 cents on the dollar for properties? That's because they don't have all these other costs involved, so they can pay more and still do well on the property. Now, how are you going to find these individuals? There is really no way to find them. It's very tough, so that you're going to have to do it and play a numbers game. Just build your buyers list as big as possible, and because of the law of averages, you're going to have some of these guys trickle onto your buyers list, and that's who you want to sell your properties to. So guys, look at it like this. Rehabbers, landlords, owner finance investors, if you want to wholesale to the MLS, you can find retail buyers and build your buyers list as big and deep as possible to increase your chances of finding this individual who's going to fund it with their own money and have cheap workers because they can pay more for the property, and you're going to increase your net income at the end of the year by selling each property that you have for a higher price. Guys, I hope that helps. I hope you liked today's video. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day.